Hello and welcome to episode 5 of season 3 of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm Nate Roberts.
I'm Rodney Godek. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here tonight. We're going to talk about some movies. And, we talked last time about the stinker that is 2023. And unfortunately, folks, it's a second round of stinkers for you. But we actually have got some interesting things to say. Some really good people involved in a lot of these movies. Some interesting career choices, things like that. So, plenty to talk about. Up first, episode 5, we're going to be talking about Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool.
Woo!
James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of La Tolca when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. Written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg, starring Alexander Skarsgård. That's the Skarsgård, if you're wondering. Mia Goth and some other people.
Fair enough. His wife, played by Cleopatra Coleman, is worthy enough of screen time to be mentioned. But yeah, this is really Mia Goth and Alexander Skarsgård's vehicle.
What a joke.
Yeah, I mean they definitely uh, hog the screen.
Good one. Yeah, man. So, look, for those that are unaware, Brandon Cronenberg is the child, the Nepo baby of the one and only David Cronenberg. Think uh, The Fly and pretty much every great body horror that was created in the 80s and 90s and still making movies. So, Brandon made Possessor a couple years back. 2 years? Or is it 18 or is it 20?
I think it
I think
was
it's
eight.
2020.
Was it 20? Yeah, yeah, it was 2020.
So at any rate, Possessor, yeah, it is 2020. I gave that like a 9 star, 9 out of 10. Possessor was beautiful. It had violence, it had weird, crazy, trippy shit, and all done extremely cinematographic, high level execution. I don't remember the DOP or cinematographer, but it was a beautiful movie, crazy out there script and story, but a good thrillery sci-fi horror film. And so I was like, yes, Infinity Pool, more of that,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. When I heard about Possessor, I actually pre-ordered it on HD DVD as soon as it came out. I watched it right away. I wasn't that hype on it. I gave it like a 7. It was a very good movie. I was you know I was kind of expecting a little, I don't know, a little more from it. I guess it was a little slow, a little too artsy, a little,
Yeah, but
yeah.
bro, like if you look at the shit that we've been watching,
Oh, no, hey.
it like
Comparatively, you
it's
know.
Schindler's List
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to this year so far.
Yeah, no, that's
You
true.
talk about pacing or interest level of what you're being shown, and yeah, whenever you look at that, it really can impact the way that you perceive it. But
No,
everything
absolutely.
needs to be graded within its own thing.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So, simply put, Infinity Pool. Uh, let's see.
Hmm.
It's a tough rate. We it starts
Yeah.
off it starts off pretty strong, pretty intriguing. I'm paying attention. I'm really kind of like, I want to know. Give me more, give me more. Um,
Unlock the secrets. There's a
yeah,
weird
yeah,
premise, which
yeah,
we'll get into
yeah. It has
a little bit later, but
yeah,
you want to know what's happening.
it definitely starts off really strong, and then
Yeah.
we get some like bizarreness, which we'll talk about after in the spoiler side of the conversation. Um, and then they kind of give it to you, and you're just like, uh,
X.
okay, okay. That's one way to do it, and then you're like, okay, well, they can go anywhere from here. Let's see what they do, and they just kind of. they just kind of more of the same it and kind of limp along and drag it out. They don't really do much more with it. They just do it over and over and over again until it kind of just ends the way you kind of naturally expect it to.
Sure.
And I don't know. For some people, that was probably like a good payoff. Um, but for
Yeah, I
me,
mean, it's just mulling things over. I think if
yeah,
it's the biggest failure of the movie, it's that it doesn't like take a stand with trying to convey or communicate a certain message. It just presents a bunch of crazy shit, and you can think about some things. There's some stuff to ruminate on and ponder the repercussions of said technology existing at this resort fictionally, and what that would do to a person, and all of the things like that, the culture that's there. But it doesn't really handle it in a way where it seems like he really cares to talk about that. It seems like the director, Brendan Cronenberg, doesn't really want to answer anything or solve anything. He just wants to kind of do weird shit, and I'm completely for that. But because Possessor did have a lot of themes and had a thrillery angle to the sci-fi horror of it all, there was a story that did have a progression that you could follow that was very meaningful and interesting and rewarding to dig into. And this Infinity Pool is just an infinite loop of just the stuff and no real concrete thing to try to nugget of truth or parable to walk away from, and so it's unfulfilling in that way.
yeah,
So I feel a similar way to you. I don't think I'm as hard on it on score, but let's find that out.
yeah. I think I gave it a 5.
Oh, sweet!
Um,
I gave it also a 5 out of 10.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, and I think I do it because I can't recommend it in good conscience, but it's not bad.
Right,
And
right.
so if I'm saying a C is a C, then it's a C.
Yeah,
It has A visuals and has some A acting from time to time, but
yeah,
it doesn't do much. And so, yeah.
yeah. The masks were creepy, but I mean, they didn't quite get me there as far as
Oh, well,
like,
yeah, let's get into some of the cool shit that we
yeah,
like about it then, because
yeah.
there's definitely some really fun stuff.
I okay. So it's Cronenberg. So even though it's not David Cronenberg, it's there's gonna be some gross shit in there, right? So like right away, that first weirdness I was talking about is like, Skarsgård goes off to take a piss, and Mia Goth comes over and like jerks him off, like
Hmm.
so like so, but like so there's like him taking a piss, and then like the stream hitting the rocks, and then like him getting jerked off, same camera angle of like just his like torso, but now she's like behind
Hmm.
him, like, and they're just like gyrating together. And then of course, plop plop plop, a couple drops of semen on the rocks, and it's like I don't know.
Semen on the rocks. That sounds like a great drink. Shaken.
Not stirred. Don't stir
No, yeah, there's definitely ropes are definitely falling in frame, and I love that visual. I thought like when that scene happened, I'm like, yes, this is creepy and weird and disturbing. There's gonna be some sort of a sexual tryst or angle here going on that's gonna like get into madness. I remember seeing at
Yeah.
the premiere or photos from the premiere of Skarsgård being brought out on a leash by Mia Goth,
Hmm.
and everyone was like, "Oh, what is this weird BDSM stuff?" And a lot of times, when things like that happen, just like with everything everywhere, there's a large part of the country that's like, "What is all this? Straps and leather? I don't get it. These kids are weird." And it's like, how is there still people in the world that don't know about the whole BDSM subculture and kink and all that? Like, it's like confusing still. Like Pulp Fiction and The Gimp that came out forever ago, and it
Yeah.
was going on before then.
Yeah.
I don't get
Uh,
it. So I
uh,
was excited whenever I saw that, and then I saw the ropes happening at the beach. I was like, cool. There's gonna be some weird, funky stuff, and it might get me a little hard, and this is exciting. So I'm excited, getting
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and then like so so ultimately for me, like where this movie failed, besides the kind of no story, no ending, just a bunch of weird stuff, is and and I think we've brought it up in the past, or if we
Hmm.
haven't, here's my first tirade.
Ooh.
Hollywood really loves movies about itself, right? Every
Hmm.
time there's a Hollywood movie about what's going on in Hollywood, It gets critical acclaim. It gets nominations. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Okay.
I fucking hate all of these movies because the last thing I want to see is rich people being rich and trying to have problems. Because fuck you, you're rich and famous. You don't get to have real problems. You can have fake, like I've got a lot of money problems, but you don't get to have real problems.
Right. The purpose of life.
Yeah, even though this movie um, is not about Hollywood, it
Hmm.
is about rich people having problems.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, oh man, how hard life must be to like, you know, do whatever you want. And
Sure.
this one guy James is like not doing the thing you want him to do. So you're gonna like threaten to kill him and ruin his life because he won't be your fucking dog. Like, come on. like,
Okay. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I can understand that you can't like attach and relate to one of the characters because and you find hard to have any kind of empathy or sympathize with any of them because they're all
ex-
just rotten people.
exactly,
And I think that that
exactly.
is the
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
So I'm
but
not emotionally connected to anyone. So
right.
so basically I'm in for the story and the visuals, and he gave me some visuals. He gave me some gore. I really liked the scene where we thought the guards were at least killing him, and then they like applaud.
Sure.
Like that was a
Yeah,
cool
that was a good
the way they laid
redirect.
that whole thing out. Um,
Yeah. So I want to just address the idea for anyone that might not have seen it and is just listening. The whole idea of that this resort and the hedonistic subculture that's existing is more or less there's a special technology at this resort where if something really awful, horrific happens to someone, or you do something awful and horrific, crime that you shouldn't have committed. In this instance, spoilers, there's an accident. James accidentally hits a pedestrian with this car that they're borrowing from someone on the beat on the resort and kills them. And they try to cover it up. The next morning, cops find them. People have confessed. They know it was you. You're going to be executed. But the punishment is death. But there's this special technology they have where they can make a clone of you. The clone dies. You live. And it just costs a lot of money. And this is how they're able to, uh, finance all of their operations and make money for themselves. And it's probably under backdoor dealings where they just happen to happen. This is like the crux of the moral dilemma or the interesting thing is like so if you're wealthy, you can just go here and do fuck all, and you can do the most heinous things, and that's what we're gonna watch for the rest of the movie. But it's like, okay, what does that lead to? And it's like they want to talk about that, but they're not really getting into the weeds with it. So with James's character, he sees it as an out. He goes through it, and you think, okay, well, like the whole psychological trauma of that. There's the whole idea also, a la Prestige. Spoilers if you don't know Prestige. Are you the one that ends up in the box, or are you the one up on the stage getting the applause whenever you're cloned? Which one is your mind right now transferring to in some sort of a way that you could realize like that it feels like you? You don't really know. Are you the real one or are you the clone? And there's no way to really prove it. There's interesting stuff there. That's a very fun dialogue to have with someone about what that means and where it can go. But the movie doesn't really ever do a whole lot with it. And the only sympathy that you can have with James is that he's technically there's a couple things that's like it's a flawed premise because James, played by Alexander Skarsgård, the beautiful, gorgeous, tallest, most delicious drink of water you could imagine of a man, I'm led to believe is a failed writer that has no agency of fighting back or defending himself against shitty people that are both less attractive and physically weaker than him. Somehow he's the cuck in all of this. And I'm like, look at him. How is this possible? I do not believe this for a second that he would be acting in this kind of manner. Like, just look in the mirror, dude. So
yeah.
there's that. But then the sympathy that you have with him is that he's a failed writer in some sense. He doesn't come from money. His wife is the one that is financing it. So there's this sort of uh, role reversal with his purpose for being there and or how he comes to live in this environment with them. And so you can attach to that because he's like a normal guy, kind of, but he's living like this, and he obviously enjoys the perks of living it like that. Like, so there's stuff there. It just doesn't, the movie doesn't do a whole lot to really have fun conversations like this. This is me really reaching and trying to talk about it, but the movie isn't going to do anything else with it. I'm coming up with all this on my own. It's not doing it necessarily in a way that's interesting, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's frustrating
Yeah.
because it could be there. There's all kinds of cool shit you can do with that. Like, what are you doing? Excuse
Yeah.
me. All right. Well, so the thing about it is, like, the debauchery begins, and then it's just more debauchery, more crazy scenarios that they
Right.
get themselves in. And funnily enough, there is a twist. It's not an M. Night Shyamalan level twist, but there is a twist. Why don't you describe the twist of, like, the reasonings? Because James seems like he becomes one of the elite here. They save him, and then he's
Yeah.
like doing crazy shit with them.
Yeah.
Where does that all lead?
So yeah, so James is like part of that thing, and his wife leaves the island, and he stays behind to keep doing crazy stuff and killing his
Yeah.
clones and all that other stuff. And then they then the police captain gets kidnapped, and he's got to like beat him to death or something, and he does beat him to death, and then they take the mask off, and it's actually a James clone that they set up for him as a prank. And this is where
Hmm.
James kind of starts to fall out with them a little bit, and we all think as a viewer, we're like, oh, that was fucked up, but they think it's cool, and we don't
Hmm.
really think too much about it. We're just kind of like on James's side, like,
Yeah, we think
yeah,
that he
man, get
was
out of
hoodwinked,
there. Yeah,
and yeah, it was fucked up. They did a real shitty thing where they just, like, they took advantage of the
yeah,
technology, and now he was torturing himself,
yeah,
thinking it was the cop, and they were just like
yeah.
drunken depravity.
So where
But
this
so he
goes,
goes to leave. He's
yeah,
on the
we
bus
yeah,
and he's trying to
yeah.
leave.
He's on the bus and they're trying to leave, and they pull that bus over. They pull him out of there. They tie him to the car and make him like pull it, like in neutral, I guess,
Hmm.
or they're just driving behind him real slow. And she's Mia Goth's got a gun and pointing it at him, and just
Yeah,
like
just casually drinking wine. They're
and then,
like, rules and laws mean
yeah,
nothing to these people.
yeah. So then she in some unfortunate exposition explains everything that's going on instead of us being shown it. She literally goes on like a couple minute long monologue of like why they think he's pathetic and they are just having fun with him, and he's just a giant joke to them. And
Hmm.
this pisses him off, and he like takes off, and she shoots at him, but
He runs
he
away.
gets
Yeah.
he does get away. And you think that there's going to be like some kind of revenge thing too, and there just isn't. He he manages to. Oh no! Wait! Yeah,
Well, he
he brings himself back in because they catch him at the farm, and they actually like bring out a rat, like a dog. They call it the dog, and it's like a almost like a rabid version of him. And
right. It's another clone
yeah,
that seems feral at this point.
it's like we're gonna kill you if you don't kill
Yeah,
your
kill the dog,
yeah.
James.
And he does, but he doesn't do it because he wants to. He does it because he gets attacked by the dog. Like
Yeah, and he finally
he
his fight
adamantly
or
is
flight
not gonna.
finally
Yeah,
kicks
yeah,
in. He
yeah,
finally becomes the alpha male
yeah,
and takes control and beats himself to death. Just
yeah,
pulverizes this clone's face in with his bare hands. And so there's gratification that occurs there, that you see him like overcoming this shitty journey that they put him on. And then the conclusion is just him, like, talking to his wife saying he's on his way. You see him tidying
yeah.
up his 3 urns of the ashes from the clones that he's had
Killed.
die now in his
And
stead.
yeah. Also, like he sees all of them now in like plain clothes, acting completely normal at the terminal,
Yeah,
and they're
the
all
group of
like,
people that he was with, they're
yeah,
now gonna leave holiday, and they're just acting like normal people on the shuttle to the airport, talking about, oh, I gotta get back to my office, take care of some whatever. It's just
yeah,
random, mundane, banal chit chat,
yeah.
like as if the insane shit didn't happen.
Didn't
And
happen,
you could
right?
just tell, like, this is what they do. This is their annual retreat that they take, and they
Yeah.
just do they cut loose. Um,
And we think he gets on the plane for a moment,
mhm.
but this is the rain season, the reason that everybody has to leave,
Right. Yeah,
because
monsoon season's coming up.
yeah, they close the resort, and he's just sitting out there in the rain, and
Yeah,
just sitting there letting the rain hit him, and it hits, and it
mulling it
goes,
over.
and it goes to credits, and it's like
Yeah,
it's
like
very unsatisfying. Like,
right, because there's so many things going on, and it could be interesting, but that doesn't. It's not trying to say anything. It leaves you there, um, and not in a way that's fulfilling. It looks good. There's good acting. There's some cool gore and stuff effects that occur with some of the deaths. It's not as in your face as Possessor, gore or physicality level,
right,
but there's plenty of stuff there. Not as much unnerving things, which which is fine. It's just it's very ho hum. We're very neutral on it because it's a very neutral movie. There's cool stuff to be had, but it's not when you compare it to Possessor, it pales.
yeah,
It's nowhere near as tight of a narrative or visual language as Possessor is, which is
yeah,
consistent from tone in tone the whole way through. Like, and I was excited because Infinity Pool starts with an amazing visual too that completely unsettled me. I don't know if it did to you, but like it has the visual where they start to screw with the camera and they do these aerial shots and it
yeah,
slowly rotates, and there are visuals, the shots are like of beach umbrellas, but because you're starting to lift up and rotate the camera, they start to look like razor blades or gross, sharp, uncomfortable things. And it's like there's this nausea that I felt right at the beginning of this movie with this montage of this intro to the island. And I was like, whoa, man, I'm already kind of uneasy from the way that this started. I like that it put me in that mood. And then it's starting to dabble and you're into it. But then like we said, it doesn't go anywhere from there. It's
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it had a decent premise, and it had a bunch of nice pieces. Unfortunately, it just didn't come together.
Yeah, the visuals with the masks. We didn't mention the masks, but the
Oh,
gang kind of puts on these masks because there's it's
those are
almost like a
the
Dia de los Muertos type thing,
on the
Candy Skull
island.
type thing
Yeah,
on the island, but they're the most grotesque things.
yeah.
What's that thing? There's a word to describe the. It's like trypophobia or something. The holes or the dots, the repeated holes. It's like there's a name for it. I can't remember,
Okay.
but it's like tryptophobia or something. Where if you see all those repeated holes like blackheads or just divots in certain thing, it can like elicit like a really sick guttural response from someone. Like it can really freak them out. And
Oh,
like there
okay.
was one mask that had that effect to it, and it was disgusting. I don't know if you noticed that one. They were all grotesque,
They were all grotesque.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think his mask was probably the most grotesque. I think they probably did that on purpose.
I want to say it's like fear of holes. Let me just double check. Trypophobia. Yeah, the most
Trypophobia.
common phobia you've never heard of. Yeah. Okay.
All
Fear of
right.
many holes. So that's a weird one if you think like I'm thinking.
Well, then
Box office 5.1. That's not a ton of money.
yeah,
It's an indie type horror. If it did achieve one thing, and I think we both agreed on this, is that it has both it solidified our how over we are with Mia Goth.
yeah. Like, come on, guys. Like, X was great. Pearl was bad.
James,
Oh my God.
James.
Pearl was
So
bad, but like her performance was excellent. And then this movie, like,
yeah,
I mean, she was fine for most of it, but there were
they
times where
steal the scene from the Warriors with the clinking bottles, except replace Warriors with James, and have Mia Goth screeching it, and
yeah,
that's what it is.
screeching it.
Yeah. So I mean, look, if anything, she went all the way. She
Yeah.
didn't
Oh
hold
yeah.
back, and I applaud that. It's just it's grating for sure, and it's kind of I think a little bit too hammed up and over the top. I think it could have been a little bit more subdued to be more fearful and scary and creepy, unnerving, off-putting. Just not in this way. But yeah, I mean, look, what's coming out with her next? Maxine's going to be coming out, the
Right.
trilogy conclusion for Ty
So
West's X trilogy, which you're wearing the X t-shirt now. So
I am.
she's at least got that coming up, and we'll see if they're gonna do other stuff. And she obviously is a gorgeous and woman and can act well. I am sure she has a more of a future in film. She
Uh,
has been doing these cult movies for the most part. Infinity Pool currently sitting at a, oh gosh, sorry, 87% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and a 51 audience. That jives with kind of like what we would expect. I can see why someone might consider it a thumbs up versus a thumbs down critically. Like I suppose if I had to say thumbs up or thumbs down, I probably would say thumbs up. You
right.
know, a 5 is middle road.
Yeah.
If it were to lean, it would probably lean as a thumbs up because obviously I don't think it deserves a thumbs down.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I had because I gave it a 5 as well. If somebody said gun to your head, you have to give it a 6 or a 4. I think I'd actually give it a 4. But
That's a really silly predicament to find yourself in.
yeah, I don't know who would do that. That's just crazy.
Yeah. What a weird Brandon Cronenberg would
I
do
mean,
that.
you know who would do that? Mia Goth's character from this movie would do that
Yeah, she would
to
do that
me.
because she wouldn't care. Yeah,
All
there wasn't
right.
enough jerking off. There was too much other stuff. It would have been cooler if it was just weird sex stuff. I don't know. And you find out like there's some like
The
hidden
weird
thing on
sex
the island.
montage wasn't even that good. It was
No, it wasn't.
way too psychedelic, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean that's what they do. Like he kind of did it in Possessor. Although Possessor's visuals had much more allure to them, where I think even like the female lead in the movie, I can't remember her character's name, but at one point you see her with a penis, and she's like living the mind of another
Of the
character,
other character,
and so
yeah,
she's having sex with a woman as a man, and like all of the weird things that go on. You would imagine would go on if you somehow could put your consciousness into somebody else's,
yeah,
is there, and like the visuals they live up to what you
yeah,
might experience, and it's really cool. This one it doesn't in that kind of way.
yeah,
It doesn't have a consistent tone with like the the score either. You know, it doesn't set that mood the same
yeah.
way. This felt flatter than Possessor did.
Yeah,
uh
actually, I noticed that I didn't like the music very often
yeah,
in
it
Infinity
just felt
Pool.
too it felt
Yeah,
too middle of the road. Like I've heard these sounds before. It doesn't sound like an interesting divergence from
yeah.
other synth type based
I, w-
orchestral mixes.
I will give Cronenberg a little credit for Infinity Pool over Possessor. Way less penis. So thank you for
The penis upset you?
that. No. There's just a lot more of it in Possessor. And if
No,
I
for
have to
sure.
if I have to choose between more or less penis,
This is a penis renaissance, Nate, that we are in. I don't know if you know this,
hey,
but there's a certain comfort level with penises
I'm okay with
in film
penis
now.
in my
I love it.
movies.
It's great. And it's only
When
fair.
for
You
comedic
can't be showing
effect,
full
it's
bush and tits for years and years, decades of
yeah.
film at least, and before then, just all of human life. You
One of
male
my
gaze assholes.
one of my
But now,
fa-
finally,
one of my favorite laughs in one of my favorite romantic comedies, which is also kind of underrated. Uh,
Sarah
I
Marshall.
I think you might have froze again. Yeah, forgetting Sarah Marshall. Yeah,
Yeah,
that penis
Jason
gag.
Segel's penis is completely burned into many people's brains.
Yeah, that scene is hilarious.
It is fantastic. I think I was listening to someone talk about it. I think he was on some podcast recently, and he was mentioning someone was mentioning how it was on at like a barbershop regularly, and they would always get to watch the customers react to that scene, like because it was like one of the tapes that they always had to play. It could have been the Fish Jelly guys. I don't remember, but
Uh,
like wherever they were getting hair done, like they had that as one of their regular movies they would put on. And so it was fun for them as employees to watch customers react to his penis flashing on the screen.
yeah, always a good scene. Uh,
Hey, stay tuned for more penis talk because we got more of it
we
tonight.
got more. There's three
It's gonna be
more
so good.
episodes tonight. So Infinity Pool, I give it a 5.
Also a 5 from the Broadster.
And give us penis or give us death. Absolutely, Aaron Toll. Thank you for that.
I love, yeah, that's beautifully said. It's poetic.
It is. It is. We'll see you next time uh, on the podcast for the recently deceased. For now, I'm Nate Roberts.
I'm Rodney Godek. Take care.